Hello, apology email group. That sounds weird, so let me just shout all of you out. Um, Darlene, Sarah, Carolina, Natalia, Maria, Natalie, and Natalie. So, what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk through your report. This way, you can know what's expected of you for your individual conventions report. And I'll also send you this copy with the track changes so you have it in case you don't have the time to keep rewatching however long this video is going to be. So, and just before I even start that, I just want to commend you on how great you all managed to work together. I know that might sound like silly because group work, I mean, it's easy to be respectful and all that stuff, but in fact, it turned out to be a little bit more difficult for other groups. So you should be proud of yourselves for being able to manage this task as respectfully and as seamlessly as you have. All right, so let's get started. This convention report, it was meant to be sort of a mock of what's expected of you for your final assignment. So just to reiterate some of the steps that happened before you even wrote. I did the job that you're going to actually have to do, which is identifying a genre of writing that you want to study. So I shared with you the genre of apology letters, and then you all worked together to figure out where apology letters come from. You then work together to find the apology letters, and then you work together to establish the similarities and the conventions of an apology email. So that's something that you're going to have to do for your own report as well. The other thing I want to mention is this report is meant to be APA. And I'm not, like, I know for here it's hard to format an APA when you're posting on the discussion board post, but just for clarity's sake, I want to show you what it would look like if you submitted it via Microsoft Word. So for APA, in the header, you would want, in the header, oh no, why is this not working? There you are. You would want the title of the paper. So let's imagine the title is Apology Emails. Now, it's being underlined here because it's track changes, but when you do it, it should just be in capital letters. The other thing that you would want is the page number. I'm putting 1 manually, but you can also do insert page numbers. So that's a really important part of APA. The next thing is everything should be in Times New Roman, size 12. So that's another thing. And then the other thing is everything should be double spaced and paragraphs should be indented. And again, I am not saying that you didn't do this. I am saying I want you to see the process. So let's just quickly do that. I apologize because it's taking long. All right. Now, the other thing, again, a formatting thing, is you just need the name, your name, at the top. So forgive me if I'm forgetting someone. No, actually, I should just look. I think I got everyone. Darlene. So that's, if you're doing it by yourself, you would ideally just have your full name. Okay, so now let's read through the introduction. You write, Discourse community refers to people who have same goals and ideas about a specific topic and through communication are trying to achieve their goals. The apology emails, to be more specific, belongs to the professional workforce discourse community. The professionals are exchanging knowledge through emails, phone calls, conferences, meetings, and so on in order to complete specific tasks. Regardless of what our profession is or what company we work for, at least once during our career, we will face the challenge to write apology email. The purpose of this type of communication is to express the regrets and offer a solution in order to fix the mistake we made. According to Scheritzer et al., 2015, apologizing feels uncomfortable and risky. Many senior leaders have problems constructing the perfect apology email because they never know how the other person will react. However, as long as we tell the true story that caused our mistake and the steps we will take to solve the problem, our boss or coworker will give us another chance. So what I really like about this introduction is you establish the community, right? So you immediately say, you immediately indicate what is going on here, that the discourse community is going to be the professional workforce, which is great. And then you define the genre. And then you even indicate why it's important for us to know this genre, where you write, however, as long as we tell the true story that caused our mistake and the steps we will take to solve the problem, our boss or coworker will give us another chance. So you kind of suggest that by knowing how to write a good apology letter, that we can, prevent, prevent getting fired or prevent having to face, the wrath of a boss, et cetera, et cetera. So all of that is great. This is a really strong introduction, and then you even indicate purpose of learning how to write an apology email. The one thing I want to suggest is you don't have to define discourse community in your paper. And the reason why is the paper is not really about discourse community. It's about this genre of writing that you're interested in. So rather than tell me what a discourse community is, it'd be much more worthwhile for you to explain the specific community that you're talking about, as you do later on when you talk about professional workforce community. So that's just a little note. And just grammatically, there are some issues with articles here. So for example, the apology emails, to be more specific, belongs to the profession. No, that's not it. So in order to complete specific task. So when you're saying specific task, you're talking about singular task because there's no S. And if you're talking about a singular task, a singular noun, you need the article a or the. If it's any specific task, then a. If you're talking about a particular task, then it would be the. So that's just a grammatical note for whoever primarily wrote that paragraph, so you don't make that same mistake in your individual paper. Okay, so now let's move on to the second paragraph. There may be numerous reasons on why you may need to apologize to your boss. Maybe you missed a meeting, you were late at work, you missed a deadline, maybe you missed work for a family emergency, and the list continues. The point is, eventually you get that dreadful call to your boss's office, realizing that a simple "I'm sorry, it won't happen again" just won't cut it. Of course, factors such as traffic, weather, or simple procrastination play a part in why you need to apologize. No matter the factor, you messed up, and now you need to own it. The point in all this is to make sure you still have a job at the end of the day. Another factor that can play into writing apology letters is if prior to getting the job, one is late or didn't show up to the interview. That can play a big role in future job interviews because some companies might all be intertwined in some way or another. An apology would definitely be in store to the hiring managers. One would hate to have a first impression of being late to a job interview that can make or break you getting a job. But let's also make it clear that not everything deserves an apology. Coworkers can't see you as being vulnerable and apologize on what's high. For this reason, only apologizing for big scenarios that will make a big impact are important. Okay, so my instinct is to say that most of this reads like another introduction. And the reason for that is you're not really identifying a convention here. You're just identifying the reason why apology emails exist. And so this probably all, let's see. I think all of this should be an introduction. Now, here, when you start to say, coworkers can't see you as being vulnerable, for this reason, only apologizing for big scenarios, that could be a convention. So ideally, that sentence should have been your topic sentence for a paragraph that focuses all on apologizing for big scenarios. And so you might have given examples of different apology emails and show how all of the emails are related to something big. And then that would become a convention that you're describing. Also, I'm not quite sure why you make a shift to being late to an interview. That shift didn't really make sense to me, so I would have liked some clarification on that. But in any case, this is just for you to know. When you're doing a conventions report, you really want to, in the body paragraphs, focus on conventions. And if you're still a little bit confused about what I mean when I say conventions, I'm talking about characteristics of the language of the writing, characteristics of the content of the writing. I'm not asking you to give me a history of the writing, nor am I asking you to sort of describe the community at length. The focus here is to get you to think about the way different writing pieces function. So talking about in most apology emails, you have to apologize for something big. In most apology emails, you have to address the person you're apologizing to using Miss or Mr. Those would be examples of convention. All right, moving on. I'm sorry about this. This is so annoying, but I have to clean it. Otherwise, I'm scared you won't see. All right, there you go. Okay, so then we have this paragraph. The first step to initiate an apology email to a boss within the professional discourse community is take the initiative to acknowledge you did something wrong and accept the repercussions that may come of it. Afterwards, the individual will need to provide a formal apology expressing how sorry they are and advising the reasoning as to why this occurred. Perhaps a suggestion as to how the situation can be rectified can be presented. Also, he or she will need to advise how a similar situation can be avoided. The individual will also need to express the importance of his or her employment with the company and good reasoning as to why the company should keep them employed. Remember that any individual within this discourse community can make a mistake. It is a characteristic that no individual lacks. As long as the individual continues with his or her professionalism and honesty, there should always be room for a second chance. Great. So this paragraph is much improved. My suggestion, though, is obviously you are only required to do 3 paragraphs, but in fact, you have multiple conventions here that really need their own paragraph. So to email a boss is to take the initiative to acknowledge you did something wrong. That's a convention, right? So you need to acknowledge that you did something wrong. After you explain this, you could offer an example from an apology letter to show someone taking full responsibility. The other thing you might want to do is explain why accepting repercussions and acknowledging that you did something wrong is so important. I think some of that might have been in this paragraph above. Let's see. Yeah, see, like the point is eventually you get that dreadful call. No matter the factor, you messed up and now you need to own it. Like some of that could probably be in a paragraph about acknowledging, but fleshing that out because that's one convention. Then you write the individual will need to provide a formal apology expressing how sorry they are and advising the reasoning as to why it occurred. So you could then again give an example of an apology email where they provide reasoning. You might even show the reader how you're supposed to give the reason. Is it supposed to be really long? Is it supposed to be really short? So that would be good. Perhaps a suggestion as to how the situation can be rectified can be presented. Again, that's a great convention that you mentioned. You want to give examples and explain maybe why providing a suggestion about how you'll rectify the situation is so important. Um, um, and then again, this is another great convention, advising how you'll make sure that this thing doesn't happen again. Give an example. Um, all of these are really like great conventions and could easily become like a 4-page paper. So just to recap, your introduction was strong. I want all of you individually to sort of keep the same pattern that you have here. Just keep in mind that the discourse community does not have to be defined in general terms. Um, Please be cautious of in your body paragraphs really focusing on conventions and think of a pattern that looks like this for your body paragraphs. Name the convention, give an example, explain the example, and identify or explain the importance of the convention. If you do all of these things, you usually will have a full paragraph. Also, if you have multiple examples, then you can continue to give multiple examples. And then just the final note, for your reference page, you just want a separate page that says references. And you want to make sure that your citation has a hanging indent, which looks like this. All right, well, hopefully that was somewhat helpful. I'll send this along to you right now, and congratulations.